Okay, you guys. I think I'm live now, but I was having problems with the audio. So let me know if... Oh gosh. Turn this down. Okay, it looks like maybe now the audio is working. I don't know. Let me know if you can hear anything. And I'll give it a minute. So we'll see. I'm trying to... Alright. Alright, there we go. Technical difficulties. I really don't like them. Anyway, hi. Welcome to my live cast. Anyway, I'm going to wait to see if the audio is working. I think it is. I'm going to type in the chat. Audio working? Question mark? I think it is. I don't know. Yay! All right. You guys can hear me. Yay! Okay. Hi, I'm back. Welcome. All right. So today I'm talking about textures. And I'm not just going to talk about regular textures. I'm going to talk about... There's background buzzing. There's background buzzing? Is there background buzzing? Can you hear background buzzing? That would be bad if you can. Wait, I might try a different thing. Hold on. All good. Yes, I can hear you just fine. Okay. If there is background buzzing, let me know. Now I do live close to the highway, and so you might hear traffic, and you might hear my vent. And I believe I'm using a different microphone because I couldn't get my main microphone to work. It fell off the table, and it might be broken. Anyway. All right. We're talking textures today. And I want to talk about thinking outside the box. I don't hear it. Okay. Thinking outside the box as far as stuff like things you can add. Now, granted, there's, a lot of times when I talk about texture, you can get all kinds of crazy stuff, at the yarn stores. And honestly, when I first started doing art weaving, it was kind of a way to use that hand spun textural art yarn that I love making with like all the locks and beads and all kinds of crazy stuff that I would spin into yarn. But not everybody's a hand spinner. And sometimes buzzing, yes. There's buzzing? No, definite buzzing. A bit noisy. It's a bit noisy, really. Let me see if I can switch this audio. Okay. Oh. Let's try this. To it and do some tests, but this all happened at the last minute, so I'm a little mortified and aggravated. Anyway, so texture. Now, sometimes you don't want to put this kind of texture in your piece. I mean, maybe you're looking for something that doesn't look like you skinned a Muppet. No sound at all now. Oh, can't hear you. Yeah, you see, I think that was my microphone is dead. Anyway, so sometimes you don't want it to look like a Muppet pelt. Sometimes you want it to look a little different, and sometimes you don't want it to look like you threw a sheep straight into your piece. So I'm going to talk about some kind of different ways, some different things that we can look at for texture. And I'm going to give you some ideas that maybe sound and no buzz. Yay, good. All right, and so I'm going to talk about ways that maybe we can give you some ideas of thinking just outside the box. Now, I know that I have gone on and on and on about some of the stuff that I find at Scrap Exchange. And Scrap Exchange is a thrift store in Durham that has some awesome stuff like, this. This is leather. It looks like somebody did a production of this rectangular shape. Anyway, but this would be pretty awesome thrown into some art weaving. And of course, you know, you can always use strips of things like, oh, do I have it with me? Where is it? Oh, like this. Like I have an old scarf. I mean, you could always, you know, tear some strips off of this and throw it in. And that's kind of a given. So, you know, let's talk about some places where you can find some stuff and talk about different stuff. So, of course, you know, going out in nature. You know, I live near a pond, and we've got all kinds of like great feathers, you know, feathers inside of weaving. That would be awesome. There's this crazy tree bark that I found. I think this is like a crepe myrtle, like a piece of crepe myrtle bark that has fallen off. So you can find stuff like that. You can go out, you can find flowers and reeds and grass and sticks and, oh, seashells. Wait, look at this seashell I found. I'm holding on to this. I got this at Folly Beach, you know, and there would be a way to even just stick something like this in there. Now, I also have a scarf where, you know, I went back and tied, let's see, yeah, see here. I went back and tied some seashells onto this, and it's kind of a really open scarf, so it's almost like a net type of thing. So yeah, you can do I clean the feathers in any way? Actually, I don't. I mean, I guess you could wipe Purell on them or spray some kind of disinfectant thing. I use like an essential oil disinfectant, and I could definitely spray something like that. That wouldn't do any weird damage to it. Yeah, I know what you mean. Anyway, so yeah, nature, you could find all kinds of things in nature, and like I said, you can find crap in the thrift store. You know, like I said, old scarves are great, or you can find things, you know, even industrial things at the at like office supply stores, things that you can embellish with. You can find all kinds of stuff. Or like, look at this. What if you wove in some colored pencils? I mean, it's like a strip of color, and it's a different kind of texture. Or, get this. This is a piece of pool noodle. I mean, I could cut off, you know, a tiny little, you know, start tearing off tiny little bits of it and putting it in there. You know, and if you're into that color, you could always find stuff like this or similar type stuff at the hardware store, and just start looking at things in terms of texture. And even if it's a big something, you can always strip it down into something smaller and try putting stuff like that in there. Oh, look at this. This is an interesting idea. I have these glass, you know, these glass pebbles. I mean, is there a way that you could lay this on, let's say like you have a piece, and you could lay it on top and do some kind of stitching around, some kind of embroidery that would hold that on, right? That's a way to add a texture. I also have, okay, so you also, show you, I think it's this piece. There's yarns out there that are like this. And basically it's kind of, you know, just thread with sequins. I mean, you could make your own. I mean, when you're weaving in a width that's only this wide, all you would need is like some string and to throw some beads on there and then lay that into your piece. You could do it with that. You could do it with buttons. You could do it with sequins. You could do it with charms. You could do it with all kinds of stuff, you know, and it's just a way to kind of anchor the bead or the button or whatever, and then you would weave it into your piece. Also at the thrift store, I mean, I'm a big fan of going and finding, stuff like this pom-pom fringe, or you can find all kinds of, people, if a lot of times if somebody's reupholstering, they might have some kind of cording or tassel-y something or other that would be really cool. I've seen glass beads woven in before. It's beautiful. Yeah, I know. Glass beads into stuff like this is just awesome. And I mean, with a wearable piece, it might be different, but like a wall piece, you could go nuts. You can, eat some chicken wings and then go and bleach and clean those chicken wings bones really good and put the bones in your piece. I don't know if I'd wear that, but I don't know. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff you could look at as far as that goes. Also, I wouldn't rule out your own textile waste. That's a good way to, we use a lot of rags. So if Bruce wears out a pair of shorts or a t-shirt, we make rags. But what if it's something like, a beautiful silk dress, make some strips, put it in. Now, there was a woman who used to be on Etsy, and back years ago, like 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago, and she used to take strips of remnant fabric and zigzag stitch it, and then just like continually to add zigzag stitch these strips and then cut right along the zigzagging, and so it would turn out to be like a deconstructed, fabric back into yarn kind of thing, which was really, really, really cool. You could do stuff like that. You could, stitch a series of little pieces of fabric, or stitch a series of your yarn remnants, lay them down and just stitch, or use some of that, I think they have some of that dissolvable backing that you can get at quilt shops. I think it's at quilt shops. Anyway, but you would lay the stuff on it and then zigzag stitch, where you can just, do strips of it, and then it's water soluble, so that stuff dissolves once you wash it or wet it, and then you have your piece. I mean, that would be really interesting to throw some stuff like that into your weaving. Or even things like, if you have an old handbag, could you show us that scarf again? This one? No, the other one. Yes, I will show my scarves in a minute, because I'm going to show you some of those ideas. So things like, okay, so say you need this. This is some really awesome strips to add to your weaving. If you have an old jacket or handbag, can you cut something out of that into a shape that you could add to your weaving? I mean, you can actually build, especially if you're only dealing with something this wide or even that wide. Maybe you need just 3 pieces that are about that wide that you can actually just tuck into your weaving. I mean, you can also, if you have access to, if you're a spinner, now I'm a spinner, so I have all kinds of great little tidbits, but I mean, even things like, some soy silk or stuff like that, you don't have to necessarily spin it. I could just break off a little piece and tuck that into the weaving. And same with the Angelina. Same with, well, this is a little short, so I don't know if I would tuck that in, but I mean, there might be a way that I could, encase it in some tulle and tuck it in. Or, I mean, just, and of course, if you have locks, this is sari fiber remnants that I dyed, or banana fiber. I think it's silk. Some silk fiber, like the sari silk stuff that you can buy. You can just tuck like tufts of that in there, or locks. I mean, it's pretty endless. So, I mean, think outside the box. And even if it's something kind of chunky, figure out a way. How would you attach it? Like, okay, I've got this great crystal. How would I attach this crystal? I mean, maybe I wrap it in a piece of tulle, and almost like a candy package, and weave that in. Maybe it's that. Or maybe I do some kind of interesting wire wrap and find a way to attach that onto a felted dread and lay that in there. I mean, there's all kinds of things you can do. So think outside the box. And I tell you, if you ever want to brainstorm anything like that, pose the question in the Fiber Art Collective. The Fiber Art Collective is a great, great place to ask questions. We've got almost 2,000 members now, and you can ask questions, and people are really, really, really helpful. So anyway, so when you're working with these textures, there's three ways you can kind of get it into, and I kind of went through some of those, but I wanted to share with you about that. So one of the ways, of course, is like the warp. And you can see here all my texture in this scarf, for the most part, except for these shells, are in the warp. So I've got some sari ribbon, I've got some hand spun, and I used my 2.5 heddle on my Ashford samplet and did the texture that way. And then here you can see where I left a part open where I didn't weave it, where you can actually really see the movement of that warp. See, and here's another one where I did the same type of thing, where I have ribbons and hand spun yarn, you know, and then this yarn had a little fiber doobie thing, little fiber flower that was spun into it, but you could also attach something like that after the fact, right? All right, so warp. Warp is one of the ways that you can do that. If you have a short piece, I mean, would you be opposed to tying knots in the warp to make however long the warp that you need? You know, if I was making a warp and tearing up bits of this, I could always tie the shorter pieces together until I got the scarf as long as I wanted it, and use that as a warp. All right, so other than that, of course, you know, weft. If you're weaving things in and out, and you'll see either in that Back to the Basics class, and I do think I show a few examples in some of my other YouTube videos where I just show you how I weave, you know, of laying some textures in and locking it in with your weaving. And that's always good for you know, anything. I mean, pretty much you can get all kinds of stuff, you know, in the weft. That's just the common way to add texture. But you can also do it as embellishments after the fact. I mean, maybe you're looking at a weaving and like I said, you wanted to try and attach something like this or some of these, you know, glass jewels or you know, your crystals or whatever, and there are ways that you can actually sew those onto your piece and use it like little accents. All right. So those are the three ways that really you can add texture. But there's things to consider when you're adding texture. Now, let me show you this piece. Sometimes I've seen some pieces that are just like full of texture. Sometimes you can just go all texture. I mean, just more is more. Sometimes that's just great. And those are great for like big textile pieces. Like if it's not a wearable. I mean, sometimes I guess you could do a wearable, like a vest out of something like that. But sometimes if you did a sweater, I might look like an obnoxious peacock or something. But, you know, now here, this scarf, you know, this is all dreads that I made, right? Tons and tons of dreads. And so every inch or two, I added dreads. And this is like a boa. This is a big textile boa. And it is insanely long. Like, it's way too long for me. but it's kind of neat. It's a more is more kind of thing, right? And that's always fun. You can't go wrong with more is more, all right? But sometimes you want to be intentional. Sometimes it's good to kind of pull back and you want to see that texture, all right? Like, you know, here I added dreads in, but I only added them in a compositional kind of way, right? So as I went along, I have this little bitty texture here, and then I just added these pieces, with the ends sticking out, right? And that now on this piece, it's since these dreads are so thick, I didn't want to add a ton of them, and on a wearable piece, it's not. I mean, it's not that bad. I mean, it doesn't hinder the drape or the feel of this scarf. All right, so that's one thing to keep in mind. If you're dealing with texture, is it going to be soft or is it going to be weird? Like, if I had this inside this scarf, I probably would whack myself in the head with it as I was trying to put it on, right? But maybe it wouldn't be so bad with the feather. I mean, maybe the feather would be okay. Oh, here's another idea. I've got tons of these cords that dye. I mean, how cool would it be to like have one of these cords snaking in and out of your piece? I mean, maybe that's a statement you want to make for a wall hanging. Anyway, that's another idea. But yes, so, and here you can see, look, when I add texture to the warp, check this out. It's kind of a way to add some unity, to the whole piece. I think that's the back side. Anyway, it's a way to kind of tie the whole piece together, because you've got this accent texture that's going down the entire length. And I do that a lot in a lot of these scarves. Like, okay, so here's another one. See, here's that. And this is actually that pink yarn that I had earlier. Oh, right here. You should see under this table. It's a mess. So, okay, so I took this yarn, right? And I just did, it looks like I just did 2 strands here, right? But it's that one focal point that goes down the entire length and kind of ties the whole piece together a little bit, all right? See, here's another one. No, this is a different one. Maybe that's the same one. Hold on. Oh, here we go. No, this one. I'm going to show you this one. Yeah, okay. So here I did it with the purple. All right, I have this, and this one's a little more subtle. I didn't pick out the fur in that, but you can add, that one little bit of texture that kind of goes down that whole piece and ties the whole thing in together. All right, so food for thought. Anyway, but again, yeah, you might want to just kind of decide if, as you're adding texture, I mean, if it's a wearable piece, kind of pay attention. The texture will definitely affect the drape, and maybe that's okay if it's in the center of a scarf that's going to be behind your head, or if it's something stiffer like a vest. But if you're looking at like a wall hanging, I mean, the sky's the limit, with the exception of is it's going to tear a hole in the wall. I mean, you could put all kinds of crazy texture in something like that. Anyway, so like I said, join in the Fiber Collective, share ideas. If you have a question or if you have something, hey, how do you think we can attach this to a piece? Yeah, put it in there and get people to brainstorm. There's ways to brainstorm stuff. Anyway, I just went to the my Weavers Guild has study groups, and in the study groups, I'm in the Contemporary Textiles group, and we just had our meeting this week, and it was really interesting because they did that. They had themes like how to do, I think the last theme was mixed media, doing some kind of collage with 3 different items, and everybody came back and had brainstormed ideas, and everybody's take on it was really, really different. But it was so interesting because, seeing a different opinion or a different side of how you could do things kind of sparked new ideas. So it was really cool. Anyway, all right. So that's my take on textures, and I'm going to put some links. I think I put in the notes already a link on where to find the Scrap Exchange, because if you're in the Raleigh-Durham area, you definitely want to go there. They have some crazy stuff as far as things you can put into your weaving, and they even have actual industrial textile waste there, like remnant yarns and stuff like that. So, can I have your YouTube account? What do you mean, can you have my YouTube account? I don't know what that means. Anyway, so there you have it. Is there any other questions? I'm going to read through because I've been kind of dealing with the mess and showing you guys textures. Thanks for your videos. Your weaving inspired me to buy a rigid held loom. Oh, I'm so glad. Congratulations, Jody. That's awesome. I spin yarn and some of it isn't next to the skin but makes great woven rugs. I bet. Oh, that's awesome. Could you see the scarf? So let me know if I showed that scarf that you wanted to see again. I'll be on for a few more minutes, but let me know which one it was, I think. It's 11:30. I was going to go to sleep, but you inspired me again. Sleepless nights. Oh, no. Oh, no. Well, write it down in your art journal and get that out quick. And then you can save those ideas and let it fester in your dreams. So, but have a good evening. Thanks for joining. All right, do I clean the feathers? Yeah, we talked about that. And that's it. Okay. I think that's it. So, again, sign up for the Fiber Art Collective. I'll put the link. I think the link's in the notes. If not, I'll put it in the notes down below. And also, I'm getting ready to close enrollment on the Beyond the Basics, which kind of goes into some of the... Oh, wait, I'll show you that scarf. The Beyond the Basics scarf. Oh, I had it right here. I tried to put it where I could find it easily, and it's just got buried. Yes. All right, so this is the Beyond the Basics scarf. This scarf each is a technique that you learn in that class, and I show all kinds of techniques, and these are all techniques. You see all these books behind me? A lot of these are old school weaving books that I had gotten when I used to work for a craft book publisher and they were getting rid of their library. So I have salvaged all those books. A lot of them are from the 70s and 80s, and I have taken some of those techniques and translated them into working with the yarns and textures and colors that are available today. So anyway, I came up with this class, and I've been offering it for the last few years. Well, I'm about to close enrollment because I'm going to break these classes out and make bigger classes. I'm going to take each one of those lessons and turn it into an individual class. So if you wanted to just learn an individual technique, then that'll be fine because you can learn that particular technique and it'll be cheaper just for that one class. But if you want to learn all the techniques, if you sign up for the collective, the Beyond the Basics class before March 1st, then as I release those classes, you'll have access to those for free. Anyway, so I'm going to put the link for that down below too, and that closes March 1st. Anyway, so there you have it. And thanks for joining, and I'm sorry about the technical problems. Hopefully by next week I'll have them all solved, but for some reason I think my microphone died. Anyway, so I hope you're having a good week, and I will see you guys next week. Talk to you later. Bye.